welcome back to Vintage Club Conversations. Today we are thrilled to have Mallory Lee, Senior VP of RevOps Strategy at Union Square. Mallory has been a B2B RevOps strategy consultant for almost a decade now. She has helped shape the marketing and RevOps at companies like Formstack, Bluebridge, Terminus, Nylas, and many more. What makes Mallory a very appealing guest to speak with on our show is her outlook on the critical importance of a strategic RevOps function in any organization and how that positively impacts everything in GTM and beyond. We'll talk more about it. Welcome, Mallory.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great. So, given your extensive experience in shaping RevOps functions at various companies, why do you believe RevOps is crucial for the success of sales teams in today's B2B landscape? What has changed?
A lot of things have changed. Not only are we trying to be more efficient today with the dollars we have, but I think we have more technology available to us than ever. And we've all seen the big picture of the landscapes where you see all the different tools and it continues to grow and grow and grow every year. So first, that means we have tons of options. Second, it means we probably have adopted more and more technology over time. It ends up being a big cost center for a lot of companies. And if your technology and your process don't work together to really support what you're trying to do in sales specifically, pretty soon you end up with just a lot of confusion and a lot of wasted money. So in order to keep the sales team, really focused on what they should be doing, which is selling and closing and being on the phone, you really need that function to get in there and get the process ironed out and get things to flow smoothly.
Interesting. So, you spoke about a lot of technologies, right? And we have spoken to, in fact, multiple sales and growth leaders who have talked about exact same thing. And they are actually looking at downsizing their sales tech stack. From a RevOps perspective, do you feel that sales teams today, with so many technologies, are actually ill-equipped in terms of training and adoption on how to use all these tools, right? Do you feel they are taking on more than they can actually use it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's always been an interesting sort of ebb and flow, if you will, because I think we go through phases. And so in one phase, everyone is choosing a platform, sticking with that platform, trying to adopt the features of it as they become necessary. Then you start to have all of these innovators pop up with different functionality that could be added onto your platform and integrated.
Yeah.
We saw this with, like conversational intelligence. We saw this with like the data providers. These new innovative categories get created and it causes you to adopt more tools. Then the bigger players want to also compete in that space. And so they either go acquire or they build it themselves. And then their platform gets bigger and bigger. Then we have a choice to make. Do I keep my point solution integrated with my platform? Or do I go all in and cancel my point solution and then get that feature from the platform vendor? And it comes and goes in waves because people, they go through periods of time where they want to reduce cost. And that is a great reason to go to the platform and use what they offer instead of the point solution. And I know that we may talk a little bit about AI today, but I think that's what we're seeing right now with AI. So, we got out of this crazy ZERP era where, everyone was just spending money like tomorrow. We hit this brick wall. We all started to try to get more efficient. What that meant for us at Nylas was we did let go of a couple tools and try to standardize as much as we could. And so we did some platform, rearranging, and we tried to hunker down and spend less. Well, now there's all of these AI tools coming, and it's like, man, this could make us more efficient. This could be an interesting point solution for us.
Yeah.
And so you start to adopt more, and it's going to happen again. Like all these big vendors will eventually build their own AI feature, or they'll acquire the ones that are out there. And so the cycle just keeps going. But sometimes the big platform vendors, they create all these features, and if you're not ready to adopt them, they go unused, and you may or may not be paying for it. But we call that shelfware. And I think
Yeah.
shelfware is like, it's the number one risk to any technology vendor getting cut from your tech stack, because CFOs and leaders, they look at shelfware as wasted money. And so
Mm.
it's an interesting balance of trying to make sure you keep up with the innovations that are out there in the market, but do it in a way where you're not creating all of this shelfware and having multiple tools that will overlap each other in functionality.
Yeah. Have you found a way to actually, do an audit of this? I mean, like, do you do a quarterly audit or an annual audit in terms of what tools you're using, what tools the team is using? And maybe, you have bought some 500 seats of a particular tool, but you get to know that only 100 seats are getting used and 400 seats are unused. So, do you have any process of auditing or checking the usage on and on?
Yeah, I think this tends to happen at renewal time. And so when your contract is up for renewal, you tend to get a usage report. And so I will ask for a usage report when we're considering the renewal. That will help me see, are we using it and getting the value out of it? Have we bought too much? Do we have any shelfware that we can let go of to actually reduce this contract? And it's tough
Mm.
because, at renewal, their goal is to grow with you and your goal is to shrink with them. So we're always at odds. And that's the nature of it, right? But
Yeah,
I think generally speaking, the vendors who do a good job of being really straight with you and saying, hey, you have some extra seats here. Knowing what I know about your strategy, maybe we could take the dollars from these seats and apply them to this new
yeah,
feature that I think you guys could get a lot of value from. And by the way, if you adopt our feature, you could probably drop this other point solution and come out ahead and save
yeah.
money. So, generally, if you can pick a platform that you want to go all in on and just have that really strong partnership, I find that they will help you optimize your cost as much as possible.
Got it. Because you have been talking about point solutions and these big, platforms who eventually build a feature around these point solutions. Because point solutions are totally focused on solving that one problem. They go in so much depth and they do it so well that it's very difficult to move away from them and just use one feature in a big platform which might not solve all the problems for you. How do you make that decision? Because, there might be sometimes you'd be continuing with point solutions, sometimes you'd be like, nah, let me, use the platform feature. How do you go about making this decision?
Well, I think this might be like a circular kind of reference here in my answer. So you buy the point solution because they do something very well and they can go very deep. However, if you only adopt it at a surface level,
Hmm.
then are you really missing out by using the platform version that doesn't go quite as deep? That is the question. And so if you are a practitioner and operator who feels very strongly about a point solution, you better make sure you fully adopt it. And you better make sure
Yeah.
you bring in those deeper advantages that no one else can have, because if you don't use it, then you're no different than tacking on the free version that, so and so would offer. And so I've seen that a lot. You get a point solution, it's great, takes forever to actually go deep. And so when that takes a long time, the risk that you run is, was it really worth it? Some people would say no.
Interesting. So before we go to AI and talking about how it is transforming sales and RevOps, how do you think about RevOps strategy when a company is growing? When a company is at 10 million ARR versus 100 million and it reaches to a billion and beyond. At what stage should companies think about transitioning from reactive to strategic RevOps?
Yeah, my opinion is that if you can be strategic from the beginning as much as possible, you're going to set yourself up for more long term success. And that's easier said than done, because when we are in that 1 to 10 million phase, everything is so fast, we're changing so frequently. It's very easy to see why we end up in a position where our process hasn't been able to keep up with us. So I think if you're in that 10 million range and you hire RevOps for the first time, that team has no choice but to put out a lot of fires and try to get things cleaned up, and then start to shift to strategic work after, the hottest fires have been put out. 100 million is probably the sweet spot, because I think at that size, you can still be a unified RevOps team with like sales, marketing, customer success, operations together. And you can have a big enough team that you can be strategic and reactive at the same time. So I think that is a great time to really embrace it and really build for the future. So if you think about one of the purposes that a RevOps team would serve at that 100 million mark, one of the best examples is getting ready for an IPO. There's a lot of systematic things that need to be done to get a company ready for that, and RevOps can play a big role there. Now, by the time you grow all the way up to like a billion, like you're saying, I think the pendulum almost splits. It doesn't swing this way, but it splits. And I think what you would commonly see is that it's harder to keep that unified group together because the individual departments are just so large. And so you almost see a reactive operations group embedded within a department, and then a strategic operations group that is unified outside of the departments to help with the leadership. And so I haven't worked in that situation before, but I've spoken with a lot of people that have been in that situation, and it's almost just too big to have this tight strategic team. And so I think that's the challenge. I haven't met anybody yet in a huge business that has that unified RevOps structure, honestly.
Yeah, I was just reading this book by Bob Iger on Disney, and I think the first thing he did was, so they had this, this entire central team to make strategic decisions. The first thing is he cut down that team to half, and they were like, each business now owns strategic decisions. You can take help from this central team for data analysis and stuff, but all the strategic decisions are owned by individual businesses rather than one central team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. I think you really need both, because no one should be making decisions in a vacuum. And you also want people to have that autonomy to be able to operate. It's a tough problem. I think that's why every organization has a slightly different structure, because there's so many ways you can do it.
Yeah, totally. So we're coming to our favorite topic, right? How do you think AI is currently transforming sales and revenue ops? Are there specific AI tools or technologies that you find particularly impactful in enhancing sales efficiency and effectiveness both?
Gosh, there's so much. I think a year or two ago, a lot of the AI advancements that I was paying close attention to were in like the conversational intelligence kind of sphere.
Yeah.
AI on top of recorded calls and email threads and like summarizing information and giving you the synopsis of what's happening. I think that was a big step in the right direction, just to get a synthesized understanding of what's happening with a customer or an account. And the ones that are coming up a lot more frequently on my radar today, they're kind of centered around this idea that there's so many signals everywhere. There's groups to be in, there's events to go to, there's LinkedIn, there's your company website, chat on the website, like so many different channels that people can learn about you from. Getting a way to like aggregate those things into social selling and signal selling, I'm seeing a lot more in that space right now. So I have some really good friends at a company called revrod.io. They are in this space doing some really interesting stuff. I also chatted with the founder over at warmly.ai today. I think there's just like a lot of these popping up. And what we're seeing is people trying to make sense of all the various stuff out there. There's just
Mm.
too much to pay attention
Yeah.
to. And so, how do we find ways to make ourselves more efficient and pay attention to it? And so, I think that is a really hot space right now.
Yeah, I think there is too much out there. Every team member is trying to use different tools and see what works for them. A lot of big companies have, in fact, consolidated kind of this decision making already by creating an AI council.
Mm.
And what this AI council is doing is, evaluating all the tools used by all the team members already and then taking a decision what should actually be rolled out and implemented at the organization level, which is pretty
Mm.
interesting strategy because there has never been SaaS council, I would say, but this AI council is kind of a new thing now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that AI can help so many different teams in so many different ways. I can see a need for some oversight, you know, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to protecting your company's IP or, privacy and things like that. But in my opinion, it almost feels like too wild to really tame
Yeah.
it because
It
you can
is
you can do anything.
totally.
Yeah, so I haven't been part of one of those AI councils yet, but I think it's very interesting, and I'd love to see if they think that they are making progress.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm sure the one reason why they want to tame it is because they know that employees are anyways going to use either Chat GPT or other AI technology. So instead of everyone using different technologies and so much of companies' knowledge going out, and you don't know how this knowledge is or information or data is getting used, right? So that's why
Yeah.
everyone wants to really introduce this quickly in their organization so that at least the trust layer is well vetted with the vendors these companies are working with. How do you see the role of sales leadership evolving in the next 5 years, especially, with the rapid advancements in technology and the ever-changing market dynamics?
It's a great question. I think this is probably the one that I have the hardest time answering, because I think predicting the future is always hard.
Yeah,
I think today being a sales manager involves managing and coaching and forecasting. I think those are kind of like the three biggest areas of the remit. And coaching can be a lot of different things. It can be call coaching, it can be learning how to get through a sales process, like tips and tricks for selling better, lots of different things. But I do think we have quite a few tools available to us today that can assist in the coaching. And so the question is, do we know how to take advantage of the intelligence provided out there to get through coaching faster or to get through coaching in real time so that we don't have to wait for our weekly one-on-one to
hmm.
get some coaching? A sales rep could have like 20 calls in a week. And so
Yeah,
if you only meet once a week, that's like half of, they might do 15 calls without the
yeah,
coaching. And then you finally get the coaching and you move on to the next week and try to apply it. So I think that if we can supply people with like more real time coaching all the time, then we can iterate faster and get better faster. And so that could be little things like getting answers to your product questions, having access to the right people internally. It could also be talk time on a call and like
yeah,
trying to really coach through those dynamics. As much as technology can help us improve the way that we sell, I think that opens up time for the sales managers to do more things like deal strategy and forecast strategy. And, here's how I'm going to help you get to your number. I don't think that, the robots are quite as good at
yeah,
being able to know everything about deal strategy. And so I would want to leave that stuff to my management, and I would try to outsource to technology on the pieces that are
yeah.
more formulaic, where we know there's a right answer.
Yeah, and most importantly, I think sales managers will get more time in talking to their customers and building relationships rather than just, trying to make a deal in a very transitive manner.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know some sales managers who feel they have to sit on every call. They have to be available on every single call because ultimately they don't really trust their team to sell.
Yeah.
And so if we can do things to do better training and better enablement to let them sell on their own, then imagine like how much
Right.
more you could do as a manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Perfect. Thank you so much, Mallory. Thank you again for joining us for this episode and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.